Hey guys, today's podcast is focused on nutrition. We want to give a shout out to a member who started a business here in Sweetwater County, Primal Plate. All right, if you guys are looking for a organic meal prep service, you got to reach out to these guys. Primalplate@yahoo.com, or you can text them at 404-290-9798. All organic meal prep here in Sweetwater County. You can pick them up in Rock Springs at their gym, Iron Cowboy CrossFit, or in Green River. Um, they've been delicious. All the meals that we've tried so far have been outstanding. They're measured out to be appropriate as far as the size goes. Um, there's a nice mix on the menu, so it's not repetitive. He changes the menu every 1 or 2 weeks. It's been really good so far. So reach out to Matt at Primal Plate. I know he's on Facebook and Instagram as well. Primalplate@yahoo.com. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, this is episode 3 of the Iron Cowboy CrossFit podcast. Today we're sitting down with Jordan Stradley. She's the owner-operator of Fuel Your Fight Nutrition. Jordan grew up around Green River, Rock Springs area and is taken off with a successful nutrition coaching business. She now lives in Arizona. We're lucky enough to have her here today to give us some more tips and tricks and just to talk nutrition. Thanks for being here, Jordan.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. So, one of the biggest issues we see as coaches, Jordan's a CrossFit coach too as well, is people neglecting the portion of nutrition and not helping their goals. At least for me, that's usually what people come into the gym want to lose weight. The biggest issue that they struggle with is not making the workouts most of the time. It's usually what they're putting in their mouth the other 80% of their day. So, if you guys look at CrossFit's methodology, right, there's a pyramid. Basically, it's how you build an athlete, and Greg Glassman has the bottom layer as a nutrition, basically foundation. And if you don't have the nutrition foundation, right, your metcons or your conditioning, your gymnastics, your weightlifting, your sports are going to suffer and not have a good foundation to build upon. So the wider you build your base, or the better your nutrition is, the more you can build those conditioning, weightlifting, gymnastics, sports pieces up. And I see people all the time that come into the gym and they go, how do I get better at this metcon? How do I get a faster Fran time? But they're drinking soda on the weekends or going to the bars on the weekends. So just little things like that, if you don't have that wide foundation, it's really hard to build off of. Greg Glassman did a great job when he put that together originally, and it still holds true. So Jordan, just to kind of get going, tell us a little bit more about yourself and Fuel Your Fight Nutrition and how that got started, and how fueling your body properly has changed your look on nutrition and fitness together.
Right. So actually, I went to school for computer science because I graduated high school at 17, and Grandma's Boy is my favorite movie. So I'm like, oh, video game stuff. That sounds great. Then I realized computer science, computer programming is a miserable, sedentary lifestyle. Pretty much the only way to get a good job done with coding is just to fuel yourself with the crappiest forms of caffeine and the worst foods imaginable. So got really sick, had really bad acne, had spine arthritis, result of basketball and volleyball injuries, but mostly from sitting constantly. So I was sick of being in pain, sick of having acne. So I started studying nutrition, eventually went to nutrition school and developed a passion for that. And now I get to part-time do IT work because that's where the good money's at. But my passion is nutrition, coaching nutrition, and I think just over the years developing my own methods and finding out what worked well for me, it's definitely helped me to help others.
Yeah.
Because the main thing is individuality. Like, one diet's not going to work perfectly for somebody else. Somebody might thrive on the keto diet, whereas somebody else is just going to get sick and have the shits all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of the biggest things I see is people, especially right now, because there's 1,000,001 Instagram coaches, and marketing is blowing up around nutrition and what to eat. But you see people go, "Oh, I need to be keto. I need to be paleo. I need to do Whole30. I need to do this. I need to track my macros." It's like, the best diet's the one you're really going to follow, and the
Yeah.
one that sits with you. Obviously, I mean, if
Yeah.
something's not working, you're feeling sick. Yeah, it might not fit. You might have a an intolerance to some foods or something that are a part of that plan. Um, and yeah, I think there's specific demographics that certain diets work better for.
Yeah.
But really, it's the one that you're going to be consistent with, right?
Yep. And the only time I have to actually recommend a client go extreme with the diet is if they have a severe autoimmune disease, like Crohn's disease or hypothyroidism, something like that.
Yeah.
In that case, then we have to cut out a lot of stuff, but it always works.
Yeah.
So it's like that works for that person's digestive system and their particular immune system, their chemical makeup. Every human has a different blood type, different gut chemistry, different hormone levels, and it wouldn't make sense for us to all follow the same exact diet.
Yeah, and I think what you were saying was like, I think one of the things like with, for example, I'm not bragging on Whole30, but one of the reasons I think it's probably so successful is because it does cut all that crap out originally,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can slowly start adding stuff back in after you're done with the 30 days.
Yeah.
And that kind of shows people like, oh, maybe that does really bother my stomach.
Yeah.
And give them, an intolerance, and they're like, okay, now I can avoid that. But they usually don't know because they're eating so much bad stuff at once.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to pick or pinpoint which one's bothering you.
Right. And I think those diets are great. Like, I try to tell people not to do Whole30 constantly. A lot of people try to do like, oh, I want to do 4 months out of the year Whole30.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people develop eating disorders and they put food on a pedestal. Whereas it's like if you do Whole30 and you realize how good you feel without all the shit food, all the soda, all the alcohol, then it's like, oh, it's a weekend and I want a beer. And I'm going to have a beer and I'm not going to feel guilty about it because it's just a beer.
Okay.
Or, yeah.
So one question that comes to mind then is, obviously the named diet plans, Whole30, Paleo, Zone, track your macros, or if it fits your macros, any of these things. If you had to pick one right now, broad spectrum for GPP, general population people, what would you just recommend?
Whole30.
The Whole30?
100%. It's the hardest one in my opinion, mostly because, the main part of Whole30 is cutting out anything with added sugar in it.
Yeah.
And there's added sugar in everything. So it forces you to stick to whole foods, eggs, meats, vegetables, and you're just getting so much of that in your diet, and then you get all this energy, and on top of that, like eliminating sugar, like it takes 2 weeks for your body to adapt to not being fueled by sugar, and then after that, just magic happens. Your body starts running on fat, you have more focus, and basically it treats sugar like it's the devil, and it kind of is. It really messes up your digestive system.
Is that what you followed when you had success with clearing up your acne and other issues?
That I actually just went paleo,
okay.
But I'd still have like honey in my tea and that kind of thing. And on Whole30,
a little bit of sugar.
Yeah, Whole30 you can't have any of that. And I do think it's very extreme. And again, I'm not pro people doing it all the time. Like I do it in January as kind of a like, all right, we're gonna do a reset.
Yeah.
And I like it. My digestive system thanks me for it, but I don't agree with a lot of the super strict diets. Like I get a lot of people come to me and they're already on a keto diet, but they're not losing any weight.
Yeah.
So I'll give them a plan and they're like, oh, well, you just gave me a recipe for something that has banana in it and I can't eat banana. And I'm like, listen, I get that it's high sugar and high carb, but you just have to plan it right, like pre-workout or post-workout. And also don't sweat it because it's just a fucking banana.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think people get caught up in some of those things. It's kind of, you're either one way or the other. You're so hardcore on one, and you're not going to budge and not have any flexibility.
Yeah.
And then you're the way you say you're one.
Yeah.
But you find yourself giving yourself all these like gimmies, like, oh sure I'm keto, but I had this many carbs a day, and then I had carbs the next day, and then carbs the next day. It's like, well, are you sure you're in ketosis? Are you sure you're in keto? Or are you just saying you're doing keto?
No,
I feel like that's the biggest one right now that people are all over, all about, which not necessarily a bad thing, but I think a lot of people think they're in keto and doing it, and they're not properly doing it.
Well, it takes research to do keto, and it takes counting. Like you have to track every single thing, and I think I don't know. I just don't think. I feel like anything that you have to track every single day, I don't think that it's sustainable. I feel like it's good for the first month or so, and then you can kind of like get an eyeball for things like, oh, okay, I know that this is a good solid meal for me, X amount of calories, good protein, X amount of fat, X amount of carbs. you just kind of learn that. But I do have clients, it's been like a year and they're doing keto and they're still counting calories and counting macros every single day. And I'm like, damn, that sounds exhausting.
Yeah, I think one to backtrack a little bit. I think how you're talking about doing your reset in January.
Hmm.
I think that's one of the most valuable things about people. You listen to their podcasts or some of these guys that are really good with nutrition. They talk about doing maybe trying keto for
Yeah.
a month or whatever, or Whole30 for a month, but teaching your body to be fat adaptive,
Hmm.
and then working back and forth, because that's obviously making that flexibility within your system is going to teach your body like to utilize both energy sources,
Hmm.
rather than just one all the time hammering it. So, but I think that reset's good. But the other thing I was going to say was I forgot. What did you just finish with?
I forgot, man.
Me too. Geez.
Something keto.
Yeah. I guess I'll think of it.
But one thing to add on to that, just training your body to go back and forth. There's this book I just read. It's called Genius Foods by Max Lugavere, and he talks about eliminating carbohydrates for the most part. Like essentially, greens and leafy vegetables are your main source of carbohydrates. And it's an amazing diet. It's the Genius Food Plan, and you lose weight so quickly. And he just talks about slowly introducing it and making after 4 weeks of doing the Genius Food Plan, you just make sure that you have your carbs pre and post workout, like leafy greens the rest of the day, and then pre and post workout, have your sweet potato, have your squash, have your complex carbs,
Yeah.
and then your body learns how to use that fuel for workouts. Because I haven't tried it yet because I'm trying to get back into CrossFit. Took a long break, which, by the way, guys, don't ever take a break from CrossFit. You'll regret it. It's like starting completely over. But it's 4 weeks and it's a mental struggle, and your body gets very fatigued, and workouts are really difficult. And then all of a sudden, you're supposed to start doing pre and post workout with these carbs, and then it just kicks everything into high gear. I guess everybody's seeing good PRs, and it all happens in a matter of weeks, just based on this diet, learning how to control or balance the no carb, and then using carbs as fuel just for workouts, not storing fat or anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. So I remembered where I was going earlier, but while you're on that, I think people forget any diet you pick, anything you're trying to change a habit in your life, whether it be workout habits, sleep habits, nutrition habits. There's a period where it sucks,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like,
oh yeah,
you got to get through that window, and it's like it's probably with everything. Just it's a new routine, but I can't remember what the days is, like 60 days or something to start a new habit, or maybe it's less than that. But there's like a research that says this many days following your routine is you'll create a new habit.
Yeah, and Whole30 does that for a lot of people, and I actually beginning of the year did it for almost 2 months. Because I'm like, shit, I went 30 days without sugar. Let's ride this out. Let's see if I can keep going.
Especially if you're feeling good, right?
Yeah, and then somebody had a birthday party and there was bottle service, and it just kind of went down from there.
Yeah. So one of my buddies in Grand Junction, actually, we just got off the phone. We were talking about some diets and some stuff like that. He coaches there, but he was saying he's been CrossFitting for, I don't know, maybe 4 years now. But his biggest weight losses come from Whole30. But he was telling me, he's like, man, I was trying some different stuff, I finally gave Whole30 an honest shot, and it's like, I'm sticking to it. And he said he was sticking to it, reading the book every day, because it was like a day-by-day follow-along, and he's like, I was feeling like shit, like, I don't know, let's say day 14. And then all of a sudden he's like, so I skipped ahead a couple pages to see what I could expect, because he's like, I was about to break. He's like, I was this far from just saying, screw this, I am done. And like 2 days on forward in the book, it said, hey, you're going to feel better. And he's like, I'm not kidding you. He's like, literally to the day, the feelings and stuff, how they describe it in the book, he was feeling almost identical to that. So,
and I'm glad I bought the book eventually. I did Whole30 without actually reading the book. And there's a thing, especially for women, we're so affected by this, and our hormones are mostly regulated by carbohydrates, and sometimes our body's like, oh, sugar, yeah, carbs, we'll use that towards the hormones. And hormones just go out of whack. So we're 8 days, 10 days without sugar, and we bloat. We retain so much water, and then I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, I've been no sugar for 10 days and my pants don't fit. And then I look in the book and they're like, yeah, expect major bloating. Your body is adapting. This is going to happen, especially your gut. Like, your gut might actually stick out a little bit just because your digestive system is forming all these gases because it's like, oh, all the good bacteria is actually being able to thrive and beat all the bad bacteria because bad bacteria thrives on sugar. So it's like there's an internal battle, and eventually that goes away, and it's great. It's magic.
Yeah. The one thing we were kind of talking about earlier about how you talked about eyeballing meals, I think the one thing that's good with Whole30, right? Not to knock other diets, but there's no control right on how much,
Mm-hmm.
correct? I mean,
Correct.
as long as they're the right foods, you're unlimited there. So that's really good for people that have like a hard time with portion control and controlling that thing. But
Mm-hmm.
back to tracking a little bit, like if it were me, I would recommend the Zone first, not Whole30, just because how challenging it is.
Yeah.
And I think the Zone is, a lot of those things you follow them, they're the same. You can zone anything, but obviously, I'm going to stick to CrossFit's methodology of meats, veggies, some nuts, little seed, or
Yeah.
little starch, no sugar. And if you follow that and follow the Zone, you're not going to eat too much. And the whole point of that is to make sure you're fueling your body to support your lean muscle mass, but not overeating, right, to where you're not supporting the fat.
Mm-hmm.
And then also regulating your blood sugar levels and stuff by eating the certain percentage of macronutrients, the 40-30-30.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But where I was going to go is it really makes you learn, just like you said, even doing one thing for 30 days and sticking to that is like, that's the biggest thing I've probably taken away is like, I've really starting to go like, I can almost build out meals in my head, not weighing them, not measuring them, but I know that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like that's a healthy meal. I have the protein, I have a fat, I have a carb. They're good choices. There's not too much of it. And I'm not going to eat till I'm sick. I'm just going to eat about that much.
Right.
Be settled, And for me, like with the Zone, measuring my food, really the biggest change I saw was like, because I have a busy day coaching or whatever at the gym, I eat pretty frequently, about every 3 to 4 hours anyway. But I would come home after a long day and be like super hungry, or my mind would be telling me I'm super hungry, and I'd eat a huge steak or those huge meals, and then almost eat till I was sick. But then I'd be like, my wife would be ready to leave the house because I'm gassing her out literally. Yeah. But by controlling my portions with the 5 block, no more than a 5 block meal, it was a game changer for like my digestive system and how I felt. And then you were talking about your gut health and stuff like that. That just made me think of one of the other biggest changes I've noticed was maybe not so much how I digest and stuff, but your gut is basically the center of your immune system, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it's 80% of it.
And I used to, in college, I would get sick very frequently, head colds, sinus infection, this and that. I mean, it seemed like I was sick a lot. And it's like, geez, I thought I was pretty healthy, being a college athlete, trying to eat a lot of foods, exercising. But one thing I've always neglected was like my gut health, getting probiotics and stuff. So when I eat now, I'm conscious of either taking a probiotic supplement or, trying to eat probiotic dense foods. And it's been a lot better. That paired with a vitamin D supplementation, I've been night and day difference in my immune system.
Oh yeah, and just digestively anyway, like it wrecks your world when your digestive system is on the fritz.
Yeah.
It's like not only your immune system, but it causes a lot of mental fog. They've conducted studies where you have billions and billions of neurons connecting your gut to your brain.
Yeah.
So when one is in distress, the other one suffers. So it can be like your stomach is upset because you just ate a bunch of shitty food and drank a bunch of alcohol. Your brain's going to be foggy, you're going to be moody, like you're just not going to be fun to be around. Yeah. Whereas it works the other way too. If you're super stressed, you're just a major ball of stress, your stomach is going to suffer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so changing track a little bit. What's like a story you have maybe about when nutrition, I mean, you kind of talked a little bit about the beginning, but maybe give us more detail about, a story of when nutrition really clicked for you, or you saw the results and you're like, this is worth it. It's worth committing to something. It's worth me changing my lifestyle to make this happen, because it's not easy. Today's society is sugar everywhere around us.
Yeah.
Fast food all the way around us, social life around you. There's all these distractions. What made it worth it for you?
So it sounds dark, but I kind of consider myself lucky. I had really bad cystic acne for 8 years straight. It was awful. It was miserable, and they just kept upping the birth control dosage and kept upping the antibiotics. Like at one point, I was on 3 different antibiotics, and They wanted me to take them every single day. And that was my early 20s, and these are doctors prescribing this stuff. So of course, that's destroying my gut chemistry, and nothing's working. steroid creams on my face, like everything. Nothing worked. And then eventually I stopped taking all that crap and I started CrossFit and I started talking about the paleo diet and this is what we do in CrossFit. So I'm like, all right, I'll convert. Let's do this. And then it was a matter of like weeks of just working out, eating good foods, and not taking antibiotics and a bunch of junk. And everything just started, the swelling went down and all the inflammation within like 3 months, the acne was completely clear.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And now I'm just struggling with like, there's acne scars, but I'm like, I'm never going back to that. So I have like the best motivation for staying on track nutritionally because that sucked.
Yeah.
Those were dark times.
Well, it's crazy to me, and you see this with other things, not just your skin, but the lack of nutritional education most people aren't aware of is, I mean, I think when I was in school, I think we were told and taught that when you go to med school, you literally get 2 hours or less of nutritional lecture material in your whole 4 years of med school.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty disappointing.
It is, and I'm actually, so I'm still in school I'm going to become a registered dietitian, and the registered dietitian programs, even those are like, you should be eating low fat, sugar free stuff like Yoplait yogurt. It now has a sugar free thing. I'm like, what the fuck, really? Like, I'm giving you tuition for you to feed me this shit.
Yeah. There's a huge gap in society, I think, educationally, and there's some people that are making huge progress and leaps and bounds against it. I think CrossFit's one of the leading organizations that's really pushing the right diet on most people for general health. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things that are into play that aren't right.
Like the keto is a cult now, and it works for a lot of people, but most people it's not going to work for. Like if you think about it, you have to have a pretty strong digestive system to be able to process that much fat. Like the process that your liver has to go through to release bile into your gallbladder and for that to release bile into your stomach, like it's a long process and you just bombard your body with all these fats. It's not going to handle it well if you have a weak digestive system. If you're a male or female who has, hormone imbalance, our hormones need carbohydrates for regulation.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, and everyone hears the first thing you hear is hormones and fat, which is true too. I mean, that's not to say just go eliminate fats, but it still needs balance.
Well, there's a balance. So, when I was in nutrition therapy school, they said it a different way, but I broke it down basically like your macronutrients. It's like a totem pole. At the very top, you have carbohydrates. Under that, you have fat. Under that, you have protein. And immediately people always, like I've given a few lectures and people freak out when I say protein is like the bottom man on the totem pole. But the reason is because without carbohydrates, your body cannot efficiently metabolize fat.
Yep.
Without fat, your body cannot efficiently store protein. So they are all completely necessary. So any diet that says you have to eliminate this one or that one, or it's ridiculous to me because there's a reason why evolution-wise we've always eaten all the things. Like, we need it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, going back on just the fact of how it changed, I think it's hard to explain to people how that one nutritional thing for you made a big difference.
Yeah.
For me, mine was more, it wasn't so much a sickness, but it was more performance-based. So playing college football, the only thing you could really do was, you get there and they're like, yeah, you got to put on weight, you got to get heavier, you got to do this. So it's like, okay, let's go. We literally hit the cafeteria 4 times a day. You got snacks in your dorm. You were trying to eat fast food when you could. I was literally just trying to get as many calories as I could, junk, whatever. Budweiser on the weekends, like typical college athlete.
Yeah.
Probably drinking. And it's like I could not break the 205 barrier. I was still pretty lean, but it's like no matter what I ate, I just couldn't get past that. And then after college football, CrossFit became more serious for me, and then I started following more of the CrossFit diet and eating paleo. And there was actually like a meal service at this gym I did my internship at where you were getting prepped meals, and I was eating like 3 of those a day. Had a couple protein shakes because I was working out a lot, but it's amazing that it was like my body literally just was not digesting the crap food.
Yeah.
I could have ate 10 more pounds of food that was crap, but I was actually gaining weight. I broke the 205 mark finally by eating nutrient dense foods.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, my body's like finally absorbing them and utilizing them rather than just going into the toilet.
Right.
So that was for me like, geez, I wish I would have done this when I was in high school, not
Same.
eating Pop-Tarts for breakfast and waking up and eating 2 eggs, a piece of toast, and a piece of fruit.
Same. God, this shit I ate in high school.
Yeah.
Because it was like, you're in sports. You have practice 2 hours a day every day. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm going to just eat everything.
Yeah, it's a joke, and most kids are still that way. And I try to preach to parents and students that come into the gym, like, hey, try that. You got to just try this, like, and I think one of the biggest things I see people do wrong, personally, is my opinion, I think, is when you have one macronutrient only
Right.
in a meal, and usually that's a carb. And I know you're like, you just talk pro carbs. I'm still pro carbs, but when you just have carbs
Yeah.
in a meal, that's when you get that high blood sugar spike, and
Mm-hmm.
you can't. It's just a bad habit. It's the way our society is right now. But like for breakfast, perfect example: milk and cereal.
Oh God, yeah.
Pop-Tarts or pastries. That's like, think about the stuff people eat for breakfast. If I said to a high school kid, give me 5 sources of protein that you could have for breakfast, they might be like,
Milk.
I don't know, maybe eggs.
Yeah.
Or milk. Like
eggs
2
that
things.
I haven't eaten in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So it's like those things. I think that's probably one of my biggest tips would be, if you're going to eat, try to have a protein, fat, and carb all together, just to help the balance. And that's why I'm such a big fan of the zone. Like I said, it's helped kind of change my nutrition, but just because of the balance part. So, and
it kind of helps you focus on like, this is fuel.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
and that's a huge problem for people is, and I still run into people like this all the time. And for me, it's like I'm trying to be an athlete. I still care about. I take probably my lifting and my training a little more serious than the average person. So I really try to think of my food as fuel. It's a common analogy is you don't put gas in a diesel truck, right? You don't put unleaded fuel in a race car. Same type of deal. Like, I look at a piece of food and think, is that gonna make me better or worse?
Right.
And sometimes it's not my favorite food, but usually I can just deal with it because I want that nutritional gain. And I know that's not everybody's thing, but if you can just start picking little things about it, and like, okay, I have a soda, or it's not the best choice, but I have a orange juice.
Right.
An orange juice, yeah, high in sugar, but that's a better choice than a soda pop.
Right.
Or even water, something like that. Just one thing. So, what's a general shopping tip you could give to somebody when shopping?
I always tell people to stick to the parameters of the grocery store unless you need spices or baking goods. And even baking goods, you're just looking for like almond flour, coconut flour, and because I design these recipes, and I started doing that because a lot of my clients are like, well, this is boring, and I miss my
sweet.
I miss my junk food. I'm like, fucking challenge accepted. And it's so easy to make some of these other junk foods. It's like, okay, so you have to use 3 different flours instead of just 1 flour to make cupcakes, but it's such an easy process. Yeah, but that's the main grocery store tip is stick to the parameters. That way you have your produce, then you have your meats, you got your eggs, and
Yeah, that's my grocery shopping tip as well, stick to the outside. Although I think in the local Smiths here, there's some soda pop on the outside, so you should avoid that.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
Just real quick for people that are listening, what's a big difference for like white coconut almond flour rather than traditional flour?
So traditional flour has literally no nutritional value. Whereas almond flour, coconut flour, first of all, it's a natural source, so your body can actually metabolize it. It knows how to process it. Whenever we eat anything that's, heavy in grain or super processed, our body has no idea what to do with it. And it actually really messes with our digestive system. And almond flour and coconut flour and even arrowroot starch, which I use in a lot of my recipes, they have nutritional value. The almond flour has protein and actually has some minerals in it. And then the coconut flour is an amazing source of fiber.
Yeah.
So you get something out of those.
You're sitting there talking process, and it makes me think one of my biggest things I've heard is, if it can't be grown or killed, then you probably shouldn't eat it. Right? I mean, if it has a face, it's a great source of protein. And that's kind of vulgar to say, but right, something like beef, fish, chicken,
Oh yeah.
like all those things are going to be way better sources. And then, stuff that can be grown from the earth, stuff from trees, from plants, like
Mhm.
all those things for your, even people might think, oh, potatoes are bad. Well, guess what? A potato can grow in the ground,
Yeah.
and it can grow without chemicals as well. So
Yeah.
avoiding those processed things, that's like a huge step people could just be making for food quality, not even talking quantity.
Mm-hmm.
That I think people need to realize. So, give us your top 5 tips for nutrition.
I think number one is don't stress about it so much, because I do have clients that send themselves into severe eating disorders, and just because they obsess over food. And when you do that, it ruins the idea of dieting for you in a way. And I don't like to consider it dieting, but I mean, it ruins the idea of healthy eating for you, because you go so extreme with it and put yourself in such a deep mental depression over, like, oh, I can't have this, that it kind of sends you down a wrong path. So main thing is just don't stress. Like, you're eating good food, and focus on that.
Yeah, I think before you go to your next tip, one of the biggest things I've heard is you need to think of all the things you can eat
Exactly.
and not think about what you can't.
Yes.
Because if you start thinking about what you can't, that's immediately what you want to go do.
Yep.
And also with that, think of the things you can. Be creative, like you just said.
Mhm.
For one thing, I see people all the time on social media, yourself, because I follow your page, and then some others. But people are doing some really good stuff with like just meat, getting creative with how they cook their meat.
Oh yeah.
Different rubs, different this, different that are still healthy, but they're making it looks like it tastes fucking amazing. It's
It
like
does.
that inspires me to want to be more creative, rather than the same old stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so top tip number 2.
Tip number 2, list stuff. I wasn't prepared for list stuff. Balance. Focus on balance. Yeah. I'm pretty. I don't drink a lot, but if there's a party, I'm gonna have a cocktail or two, and I'm not gonna feel guilty about it. So balance in the sense of treat yourself every now and then. Just don't go off the deep end with it, because I do have clients, and I have one in particular. She drank a bottle of wine at a party 2 weeks ago, and she's had wine every night since.
Yeah, she gave herself the one giveaway, and now she can't get rid of it.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, well, that's why you gotta find balance. You can't put something on a pedestal, and because then you're just gonna obsess over it, and you're gonna have dreams about it. I think my thing was, I did Ideal Protein one time when I was in nutrition school, and it was just, they want us to experiment everything so we can tell people, like, hey, this is why this doesn't work, and this is what happened to me when I tried to do this. I did 10 days of Ideal Protein, and I fantasized about eating an apple. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, it's an apple, but it's like, oh, it's carbs, it's the devil, you're not supposed to have that. So balance, eat very well during the week. If you want a donut on a Saturday, have a donut on a Saturday. But stick to one donut. Don't have cheat days.
Yeah.
You can have your cheat meal, have your cheat thing, have a beer on game day, have 2 beers on game day. But just control.
Yeah. Okay. Tip 3?
Ah, shit. Tip 3, let's say, schedule your carbs properly. Like, this is how I look at carbs.
As in around your workouts.
Yeah. So breakfast for me, I work out on my lunch break. So I generally eat around noon, and it's something butternut squash with some sort of meat, but that's when I'm like, all right, carbs, like this is what's going to fuel my workout. And then in the morning, it's just protein and greens and fats, because that's what your body kind of wants first thing in the morning. It doesn't want a blood sugar spike. It just wants good macros and micros.
Yeah. So just to touch on that with timing real quick, you guys that are listening, is maybe you follow athletes on social media, maybe you're following some other people on social media, right? That's kind of variable, like how much you're working out. If you're a CrossFit Games athlete, those guys are eating a lot of carbs, right? Because that's the number one thing to fuel your body for workouts, is you need that muscle glycogen. So just because they're eating it does not necessarily mean it's the best for you, but they're usually making good, lean, clean choices, with that being said, right? But they're doing 3 workouts a day sometimes, so they're going to be, a carbohydrate dense, fruits, sweet potatoes, those types of rice, all those things around workouts, and maybe a couple times a day if they have multiple workouts. But like Jordan said, if you're doing one workout a day, a couple hours, an hour to 2 hours before your workout, and then some maybe post workout to help promote that recovery. But other than that, that's a good tip. Yep. Number 4?
Number 4, micronutrients. It's going to be your minerals, your vitamins, and those are actually the building blocks to what helps fuel your workouts and what helps you recover from your workouts. So the biggest thing that I see, especially in women, is an iron and a magnesium deficiency and vitamin D deficiency. That's going to keep you from recovering. That's going to keep your energy levels significantly low, and it's going to cause rapid aging in both men and women. It's going to mess with your hormones because hormones are also dependent on those micronutrients. So you're not going to get it from food. I'm just going to tell you that. So supplements are very important. If you can find like a good green powder, most green powders these days have all the micronutrients that you need.
Yeah. So one thing, I think, especially if you're eating any processed foods, right, then you're really starting to strip those micronutrients. If you're getting whole foods, you're going to have a better chance of getting them. I'm coming back with a question about supplements in a little bit more detail, but I mean, for me personally, the things I've supplemented with and seen the most success with are the fish oil, vitamin D, and magnesium. But just to touch real quick, vitamin D, that's been a big one for me. I used to take like one a day, which is like 2,500 IUs, right? That's international units for you guys that aren't familiar with that. But if you read the back of a bottle, it'll tell you, how much you're getting per pill or anything like that. During the summer months right now, so when I'm getting sunshine on my torso and throughout my day, I'm taking 5,000 IUs. There's a lot of like mixed reviews of those doctors that it's a fat soluble vitamin, so you could technically overdose without it. But I've heard when I was in school, I had professors say that they watched a guy take a whole entire bottle on stage and he was fine, right? One thing with that one I would say is you probably should get blood work done, and keep doing your blood work maybe every 4 to 6 months, probably, to keep track of that, because that's the best way you're going to see like what your body's using. Because I actually know a guy that was saying he was taking like 15,000 IUs daily, but his blood work supported it and it was fine.
Yeah.
And he felt great. And it's a huge hormone thing. Like for men, especially with testosterone, it's one of the best vitamins that your body needs for testosterone.
Yeah, actually for men, the big ones the top 3 are vitamin D, magnesium, and zinc. Yeah. Zinc is huge for testosterone. I actually have quite a few male clients. They're younger guys who struggle with infertility and impotence, and I've had a few gynecomastia patients.
Okay.
Some like very, very severe stuff, and they just start supplementing with the zinc and the vitamin D. Just those 2 things alone brought them out of that hole.
Yeah.
So they can actually start building muscle and making babies and stuff.
Yeah, cool. So, all right, last tip.
Last tip is going to be get creative with your food, 100%. Because, I hang out with a lot of CrossFitters in Phoenix, and most of the time it's like, oh, chicken and broccoli and no sauce on any of that. Like, that sounds miserable.
Yeah.
Like,
you need to enjoy it.
Exactly.
There's a thing of making a sacrifice, like a little bit, like not eating exactly what you want every time, but you should find alternative ways to make your food taste good, because ultimately that's what's gonna make you want to eat it more.
Yeah, I remember whenever I did Whole30 with a few people from the gym in 2016. I remember one married couple. They made Whole30 the most entertaining thing in the world. And I think the best thing they did was they got a spiralizer, and he put a power drill on the spiralizer and put that on there to spiralize the potatoes, so they didn't have to do the crank. I'm like, that's an example of getting creative with your meal prep, 100%.
At least making it faster too.
Yeah, exactly. But if you try to make good food, and you shouldn't have to dread every meal. It's like, you should be focusing on not eating crap, but you should also look forward to something that you're going to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Real quick, I want to leave these guys with 5 tips from me. One would be eat more veggies and fruits. A great page to follow if you want to look at some studies would be Optimize Me Nutrition. She's on the CrossFit seminar staff, super knowledgeable, but you could read all about that. Number 2 would be eat a source of protein with every meal and snack. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that are skipped, even though people get concerned with fats and carbs. But if you're eating breakfast without protein, you're missing a huge building block there. Um, Number three would be quit sugary drinks, so soda, energy drinks, alcohol, and juices. I think people, it's pretty obvious maybe for soda and energy drinks, but a lot of people don't realize how much sugar is in alcohol. And then juices like fruit juices that seem healthy are usually loaded with sugar as well. Number four would be stay hydrated, so drink half your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 200 pounds, try to be about 100 ounces of water a day. And then number five, you don't always need to reward yourself on the weekdays or each weekend. I think one thing a bad habit they have is like, oh yeah, I've been really strict on this diet for the whole day. I'm gonna have a bottle of wine tonight,
Yep.
or I'm gonna eat this pint of ice cream tonight.
Yeah.
Or it's like they reward themselves, but it's like too frequent.
Yeah.
Not to say that you shouldn't reward yourself, but there's a fine line between, are you rewarding yourself on one weekend a month, or is it every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday you're purging for the freezer with dessert?
And I question how strict you're keeping your weekdays if you keep going that route, because anytime I do something like that, I regret it for days. Like, yeah. I had a couple tequila cocktails before I flew out here, and every workout that I've done here, I want to die. Yeah. Like, I hate you the whole workout.
Yeah. I think for me, the biggest thing when I do that is I have a hard time getting myself back out of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, once I do cave and have a sweet, like let's say a cheat night or something, I do find myself wanting to do it again and again and again, like following that trend. But if I don't, like, just why Whole30 is so good, if I eliminate those things, I don't find myself craving them nearly as bad. So,
right.
All right, a little quick AMRAP question. It should be like a 1 or 2 word answer, probably maybe 5 at the most. So, coffee or tea? And it could be for you or for other people, you can say.
Tea.
For you?
For everybody.
For everybody, okay. Salty or sweet?
Sweet.
Chipotle or Cafe Rio?
Chipotle.
Favorite benchmark workout?
Grace.
All right. Grill or bake?
Grill.
Favorite protein flavor?
Like protein shake?
Yeah.
Chocolate.
Okay. Favorite workout song?
Oh shoot, there's so many. I'm gonna say "Come Baby Come" by K9.
Okay. And then last one. This is probably a little bit broader question, but should people be supplementing? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. To dive into that just real quick, what would you say are like your top 5 recommendations for supplements? As not necessarily a brand, but like what they are.
Number 1 is going to be probiotics, because gut health is number 1 priority. Omega-3 fatty acid for muscle recovery, also good for the digestive system and hormones. Zinc, also amazing for muscle recovery. Really amazing. Let's see. Magnesium, good for mental health, as well as recovery. And collagen. It's a really amazing amino acid that's great for skin, great for joints. I love it especially just for my dad and everybody who's getting older. I hear those bones creak. I'm like, all right, collagen.
Yeah. I just want to throw some in there real quick too. So I think Jordans were really steered towards health, to lean towards a performance base a little bit more. I would say whey protein or a casein protein, right? Whey is going to be faster digesting. Casein is slower digesting. So whey should be, like Jordan was talking about timing earlier, you'd want to drink a whey protein shake around your workouts, preferably post or pre. There's a lot of people think it's post, but it's actually perfectly fine to drink it pre as long as you can stomach it. That's usually the issue, is people get sick when they drink a protein shake 30 minutes before their workout. They can't stomach it after a hard workout. The casein's great in the morning. I like it in my smoothies, and I like it before bed, because that's when your body's going to go catabolic and eat your own muscle for fuel during the night. Fish oil, right, to keep the inflammation down. The magnesium, like Jordan said. Creatine, I think it's very effective. It's one of the most studied supplements out there. There used to be some taboo about that, as far as, like, oh, is it bad for you? And there's no studies that show that. It's going to help strength for men and women, okay? And then last probably would be the vitamin D, like we talked about earlier. So as far as keeping your immune support up and helping your hormones as far as testosterone and stuff. All right, last thing is where can everyone reach you? We follow you on social media or contact you if they're interested in nutrition coaching.
So, best place, Instagram is where I get a lot of my clients. Everybody seems to DM me a lot on there. Instagram handle is fuelyourfight_nutrition. You can also check out my website and my blog. It's fuelyourfightnutrition.com. I know it's a handful, but a lot of domain names are taken these days, so you guys just have to deal with that. And I think that's it. I don't use Facebook. I know I should, but just Instagram and my website. And I'm writing a cookbook, and I'm hoping that's going to be released this fall. So you guys can look forward to that. It's just a bunch of tasty paleo junk food recipes, and I even have modifications where you can make it Whole30 by replacing this ingredient with that ingredient, and you can even make it
Awesome.
keto, even though I'm not a huge keto fan. But whatever, I want people to buy my book, so
Awesome. What's it called?
I don't know
Working
yet.
on the name. We'll keep you guys posted with the
Yep.
name then once that gets released. All right, Jordan. Well, thanks for your time. We appreciate you coming on the show today.
All right, thank you for having me.